So Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 298 of the Canadian Football Countdown, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network and the Alternative Football Network. Adam Stewart alongside Ryan Coop. Hey, it's Ryan. How you doing, buddy?
I'm back. I'm here. Suspension is over. These guys put me on a podcast suspension for the past number of weeks. You forget to return one phone call and, you end up suspended. Zach Collaros understands it, I'm sure. And you end up suspended, and somehow it keeps spiraling there, one thing after another. The weeks pile up. But, Adam, it was such a good week of CFL football. I said, screw it. Forget the suspension. I'm coming back. I want to talk about it. And I'm very excited to be back and talking about it here tonight.
Absolutely. I mean, so what have you been doing over your last 7, 8, 9 weeks of suspension here?
Oh, I've taken this time and reflected on my life and decided this was the perfect time for me to record my debut album. And what better way than to announce it on a podcast on August 13th, 2025. So I do and absolutely not have a debut album coming out. I'm not musically inclined, let's just say that. But no, I've been spending time with my growing family over the past, I think it's been 7, 8 weeks since I was last here on the podcast. Took a little bit of a sabbatical, so to say, from the podcast this summer. Left the keys in the hands of Adam and Trey and Mike, which was a terrifying thing because historically I have been the one, running everything behind the scenes. But kudos to these guys. They stepped up big time. I've listened to the show. I've watched the show over the last 8 weeks, and you guys have done a bang-up job. So thank you, Adam. Thank you, Trey. And thank you, Mike, even showing up randomly for a couple of weeks there to hold the boat afloat while I was away. But I'm so happy to be back chatting about CFL football because I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine you do. I'm just kind of disappointed, though, Ryan. I mean, when they told me that somebody that was writing their own album and was going to be on the podcast was going to be joining me tonight, I kind of had somebody else in mind, but no matter, whatever, it's all good. We'll make it work with what we got here. So anyway, do you want to run through our sponsors?
Yeah.
Give you the honor.
Well, let's see if I remember how to do this. Hello, everybody, for joining us this evening. We are live on a variety of platforms, and that's thanks to presenting sponsor Game Time TV. You can learn more by visiting GameTimeTV.ca or by following on Facebook at facebook.com/GameTimeTVMB. Before we go any further, we do also want to acknowledge that the Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you from Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation, as well as from Treaty 4 territory, traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis Nation. Let's chat about the Discord quickly a little bit at the top of the show, as we typically do. I may not have been on the podcast over the last 7 weeks or so, but I think folks in our Discord community they've gotten a fair share of me over the past 7 weeks. Have been active going on there. We have lots of conversation in our Discord community, live game chats going on there. General CFL chatter, great opinions shared by everybody. My favorite part, of course, the CFL Fantasy channel. If you are a CFL fantasy player and you want to elevate your game, the free Discord community is the place to be because we have lots of great members who are really good at fantasy football, sharing ideas back and forth there. And of course, I've been busy in the stats lab with the fantasy charts, providing, info on average fantasy points each team gives up to each position, target shares, things like that. We've got all of those charts going in the Discord, and that's the one place you can access them. So if you'd like to do so, link is in the episode description. Come join us over there and join the fun. got anything else on the Discord?
Absolutely. And I mean, go ahead.
I was just wondering if you had anything else you want to throw out about the Discord mention. Adam's trying to sell some farm equipment in the farming channel. So if that interests you, and if you could
pending I did take a deposit on it. I mean, the other day at $5. So, I mean, if they have some dollar comes up, I guess I got the item sold. So a little late, but no, honestly, check out our Discord channel. All sorts of great information on there, whether it's Toronto baseball or it's what else have I even thrown on there? I think golf was talked about the one day there. I seen hockey, all sorts of sports, and of course the main one, CFL. And hey, we'll even give you some advice even on some NFL fantasy picks. I think Trey's kind of working on that right now. And also, if you're a member of our Discord channel, you can join the fantasy leagues that we always kind of host for NFL, for CFL, all sorts of good stuff. We'll tell you how we're doing those as we're going along. But NFL one, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mike is running that one, and that one's coming up pretty soon. So be sure to go and say if you're interested in joining us over on the Discord channel. And if nothing else, just come and say hi. We're pretty friendly over there.
Yeah, we don't.
Let's move on, though. Anything else you got, Ryan? Or
nope, go for it.
All right. Well, then I guess let's week 10 recap. One thing we did, because Ryan was gone and he wasn't being able to give us all his hot takes all the time. So we said, you know what? Let's just pick one topic per game of the week game. And it's a quick way of going through the last week. I think the first game of the week, if I'm not mistaken, was the Edmonton Elks and the Montreal Alouettes. Am I right? No? Okay,
no, it was the BC Hamilton overtime thriller that kicked off the week. And before we talk about the individual games, I don't know if this is a hot take. This was the single best full week of CFL action I have seen in my lifetime. Like, I can't think of another one that pops into my mind ahead of things that was better. We had 4 fantastic games. What was it? 9 points in total, separating everything in between these games. I think they were all decided within the final 2 minutes or overtime. And there were points aplenty in these games this week. So very exciting week of CFL football. And like I said, I just had to come back to talk about it as we start talking about, BC 41, Hamilton 38, the first game of the week. What was notable to you from that one?
I think it was pretty much what I remember. I only got in to watch about a little bit of the fourth quarter, but boy, they never say die with them is what I found really was quite amazing. I thought that really, boy, they played a great game. Hamilton came back too, Bo, but you know what? Give Nathan Rourke credit for going on the road, striking out one and getting one done. And that interception, I mean, I don't know. I didn't really like the throw of it, to be honest with you, from Bo Levi Mitchell in the overtime. But that being said, nice play, got intercepted, and turns around at the end on White. No, he's absolutely going to be money from anywhere in that overtime range. If it's less, obviously it was less. So no, that's what I really could tell you about that game there. And the other one also is, we'll be into it later on here with the probably when we talk about Hamilton. Come on, Keandre Smith is a little bit better than what I think he's valued at right now.
Yeah. This may be a long show, Adam. It may be longer than you've been used to the last couple of weeks, because I've been building up 8 weeks of rants about Genius Sports and CFL Fantasy. So that's definitely going to come into play a little bit later on as we get into that. I think your internet connection's struggling a little, Adam, so I'll get you to pop out and rejoin as I get my take here on Hamilton and BC. Yeah, fantastic game across the board. I mean, Nathan Rourke, 400 passing yards in that game. Like, that's a vintage Nathan Rourke performance that we've been waiting to kind of break loose and see. James Butler continues to be an absolute monster. I think he's best running back in the league right now. I picked him in the first round in our fantasy draft before the season, and there was a reason for it. Kind of regret trading him away to Mike a couple of weeks ago at this point in our fantasy league. But that was, you got to make some trades sometimes, keep things interesting. And kudos to BC for getting it done, because Hamilton looked like the hot team out in the CFL. I think 6 straight wins coming into that game. The offense had really been picking up lately, and this one was an absolute shootout and not a lot of defense going around in this one. And what a way to start the week. If you can start the week with a 41-38 overtime game. I see not our Adam, who I welcome back in now, but I see a different Adam in the chat saying Hamilton BC Grey Cup would be great entertainment if their 2 games are any indication. I would love a Hamilton BC Grey Cup matchup. That would be absolutely fantastic. And yes, just answering Richard's question in the chat, I am using a standing desk. We will see how long I manage to stand during this episode, because it's the first time trying to use it on a podcast. So I don't know. What's the over-under, Adam? How many minutes till I give up and sit down?
I would think we're going to go 30 just of it, and we'll see how long we go after that. I think probably I'm going to go with the over, because it looks like Ryan now has dad shape, so he's really strong. So, it's not unlike me, who's just a single low guy. Probably I got to sit in my chair and make sure I don't fall out of it. And plus, I'm the oldest on the podcast, so I get the chair. But anyway,
fair enough. Second of the game of the week.
Second game of the week.
Second game of the week was the Edmonton Elks with the last-minute comeback over the Montreal Alouettes, winning that one 23-22. I wasn't really surprised to see that. I kind of said the Elks were going to win all the way through, even before that Tyrell Ford interception halfway through the game there. We're going to talk more about Montreal and their quarterback situation when we get into the game preview later on, because there's some significant changes and stuff like that. But man, Montreal seems like a team that without Davis Alexander has really been spiraling. And to me, Cody Fajardo has now injected life into the Edmonton Elks. And it's kind of ironic that we are in this same situation that we've been in the last 3 years, where we're questioning why did it take so long for a QB change? Because suddenly they changed the QB, and then this team starts gaining a little bit of momentum. And it's ironic because the last 2 years it was, put Trey Ford in and he'll inject life. And this time around it was take Trey Ford out. And Cody Fajardo just looks so much more comfortable in that offense. He's making these plays happen late in the game. And yes, they're struggling to put points up early, but the Elks are a competitive team that I don't think we should take lightly in matchups anymore, like we were the first couple of weeks of the season. What else did you see from this one?
The thing I've seen in this one here, Justin Rankin, either he gets a lot of yards on the ground or he gets a lot of yards in the air. With Edmonton, how that one's working. Montreal, like I said, I don't know what to say right now. I thought McLeod Bethel Thompson would have been a very good insurance policy. It's turning out not to be. It goes on the 6-game injured list after this game. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Overall, yeah, a good momentum win, if anything, on the road in Montreal. Pretty tough to do that usually.
Well, that was going well. Adam had some internet issues and my microphone was muted. I'm rusty. Give me a break. It's been 7 weeks. We're lucky I can form coherent thoughts at this point in time. But we'll get Adam to reconnect. Hopefully these internet issues don't continue. Apologies, folks, watching live or after the fact for that. But yeah, I think we kind of summed it up well on Edmonton and Montreal here. Montreal, they're a team that I think once Davis Alexander comes back, they are still a top-tier team in the CFL and should not be taken lightly in that East Division. And we'll see what the quarterback change that's been kind of caused by injury now will do for them going forward. When we talk about that game, their upcoming game with BC later on in the show, we'll move on to the third game here to move things along quickly. Ottawa, Toronto, the first of a Saturday doubleheader. Bombshell game here once again, 46-42, 88 points scored in this one. Story of the game probably is Drew Brown and his 5 touchdown passes. Braylon Addison had 26 fantasy points in the first half. Then Justin Hardy had probably around 30 in the second half. Eugene Lewis finished with 2 touchdowns as well, and that Ottawa receiving core was just a monster that couldn't be stopped. And Toronto, to their credit, looked really good as well. Nick Arbuckle threw 3 touchdown passes, completed 32 of 38 passes in his performance there. I really don't think Nick Arbuckle has been the problem out in Toronto. I think it's just been a mix of errors on offense, defense, special teams. The special teams for Toronto is a big concern, because not only did we see 2 return touchdowns from the Bombers against them the week before, but this time around we now saw 2 big returns in this game. I think Pimpleton had one. I think Adeboboye had one. And that's my biggest concern for Toronto. If they're going to right the ship and get out of the basement in the East Division, is just, can they actually make a stop on special teams, because that's putting their defense in a tricky spot. As we welcome Adam back in. Hopefully internet issues are better. And Devontae Coxey went MIA for fantasy players after 2 monster weeks. And you know what? My point on that, I think, and we'll get to this also later with fantasy, Ottawa's defense is very underrated. They gave up 42 points, but maybe just at least from a fantasy perspective, they are actually one of the best teams at shutting certain positions down, which surprised me a little when I dug into that this week. But 46-42 Ottawa over Toronto. What were your thoughts on that one, Adam?
Not really a whole lot. I thought Ottawa, like you said, their defense is a lot better than what I thought it was going to be. I mean, they got certain spots that they really do a good job of shutting down quarterbacks or running games, is what I found. The passing game, actually, of Drew Brown, I thought was a little better than what I maybe was giving him credit for as well. Justin Hardy finally got open in this game here. Looked like he was actually pretty good, as well as Geno Lewis. So both you and me would have been successful in our fantasy if I would have picked. No, I didn't put Geno Lewis on mine.
Yeah, I didn't put Justin Hardy in my lineup. That was my bad, because he was injured going into the week, right? Yeah, he missed a couple days of practice, so I put Barry Hill in instead of him, and I'm regretting that.
And the other one that I went and probably had him in Trader trying to get back over. I didn't forget being MIA. Darn right, Richard. That's exactly our evil conspiracy.
I honestly, coming into this week, I was like, "Okay, guys, I'm back this week." And then one by one, Trey was like, "Yeah, I'm out this week." Mike's like, "Yeah, me too." I'm like, "Adam, like, is somebody gonna?" I show up and nobody's here.
Nah, I'm just like bad furniture. I'm always here usually. Anyway, the other part for this game here, I was kind of surprised. Kevin Mitel, I guess he was injured a little bit during practice last week before. Didn't really have a great game against Ottawa. I thought he was going to have a better one. And it cost me in my podcast fantasy league, which sucks. But we'll get into that later on too.
Yeah, for sure. And then final game of the week, the Calgary Stampeders complete the sweep of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on yet another Rene Paredes walk-off field goal. I feel like that has happened many times in the past, and it continued on this one. Calgary seems to be that team that has Winnipeg's number 28-27, the final score. It was deep ball after deep ball after deep ball. That seems to be all that VA and that offense needed in order to beat the Bombers' defense, and it worked over and over again, just like Toronto did the past couple of weeks, and that's a big concern on the Winnipeg side. Calgary obviously getting right back on track. They got a couple guys back healthy this week, which was nice too for them. And that's going to be huge in the West Division standings. They managed to sweep the Bombers there. On the Winnipeg side, I still have no idea what to make of this team this year, Adam. They have the weirdest schedule I have ever seen, in that we are through week 10 and they have played 4 teams. They have played Calgary 3 times. They have played Toronto twice. They have played BC twice and 1 game against Edmonton. They're 0-3 against the Stampeders, but 4-1 against the rest of the CFL, I believe, out of 4-4 record. So I really don't know what to make of the team. Like, everybody seems doom and gloom over them the last couple of weeks. I'm not there yet. Let's give it some more time as they start playing Ottawa this week and some other opponents like Montreal in a couple of weeks. and Hamilton, and let's see what that team looks like. But what were your thoughts on this one?
You know what? I looked at this one here, and I finally, I went and I was told it last week. I know I brought it up quite a bit. They had to get Brady Oliveira involved, and oh yeah, they did that to Winnipeg. I think he had 226 all-purpose yards, if I wasn't mistaken. I was something ridiculous for yardage for Brady Oliveira. So good job. They finally got him involved. But just the defense, the secondary is just not the same as what it used to be. Mainly the secondary is what I'm saying. Adam Big Hill was a big miss now. I think that they're okay with what they got, which was, sorry, I can't remember the guy's name. Nevertheless, I think that, like I said, their secondary is just not the same as what it used to be in Winnipeg. And I don't know what they need to adjust or what they need to change, but something has to soon, because they got these big teams that like to go and essentially make it a throw, what do you call it, just a throw fest, like DA likes doing. They're going to get burned pretty quick. I think that score could have been worse if Calgary losses in the receiving core, but unfortunately they don't right now. But they still had more than enough to take down the Winnipeg Blue Bombers once again. And I like that it came down to a kicking game. I mean, congratulations to Rene Paredes for kicking, what was it, a 63-yarder?
No, that was Sergio Castillo. Paredes kicked the game winner, but just before that, Castillo's 63-yard field goal, which wasn't even the longest football field goal of the weekend. There was the 72-yarder in the NFL preseason. That was officially the longest kick in NFL history, or unofficially the longest kick in NFL history, because preseason apparently doesn't count for records, which is absolute garbage for things like that. Like, what? I can understand like passing records and things like that, not counting because preseason, because you're playing different rotations in there. But you're telling me a kicker, like, how much is this going to change things for the kicker? Preseason versus regular season. I say give him the record, but Sergio tying the CFL record, I believe, for longest field goal kick. So kudos to him for that, and looked like he could have made a couple extra yards on that one as well. But yeah, entertaining week 10 in the CFL. Fantastic week. Was so much fun to watch. And honestly, people probably don't want to hear this. I kind of feel like a lot of this season hasn't been great so far. I think there have been blowouts after blowouts, games that looked sloppy throughout the first couple of weeks. Some teams that have really struggled. I think some of the play we've seen over the past, 8-9 weeks coming into this was a little lackluster. So I was really excited to see this week 10 performance across the board coming into as we start rounding into Labor Day here shortly. People always say the season starts at Labor Day. I don't think that's actually true. But hopefully we get some really good football here from here on out this season. And we'll see if the defenses can lock in a little bit more after a week when, 200, 300 points given up across the board. I know we had a couple of games there that hit 80 or 90 points this week. That is it for the week 10 recap. We'll give Adam's internet a second. I'm starting to think he's punking me here with his internet situation. No, of course, he is just going to get reconnected. But at the same time, we can move on to the next topic. I've done this podcast before. I think I know how to do things, if I remember correctly. So let's move on to our first game of the week, which is the Ottawa Red Blacks at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. First matchup between these two teams this year. Big storylines, of course, I think, is the quarterback battle, because I do think that one of the biggest mistakes we'll look back on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers organization making is trading away or letting Drew Brown walk. I guess he walked in free agency and holding on to Zach Collaros. I think that was absolutely a bad decision. I think Collaros has been on the decline, hasn't looked great over the last number of years, and I think Drew Brown has a heck of a future ahead of him if he can stay healthy, and he showed it this last week with his 5 touchdown passes in that game. So we'll see what he can do against the Bombers this year. If I remember, in his first season last year in Ottawa. I believe it was like weeks 1 and 2 that he played against Winnipeg, where he was just getting his feet wet there. So we didn't really get to see how he's developed into this offense. And, Adam just talked about that secondary for Winnipeg giving up a ton of yards over and over in those deep balls we were talking about. And now you play the likes of Geno Lewis. You've got Justin Hardy. You've got Braylon Addison. You've got Khalil Pimpleton. These are guys that are massive playmakers in an offense. Ottawa hasn't really stretched the field on the big plays so far this year. I think, surprisingly, given that the amount they pass and the playmakers they have, they've been more conservative with their passes. So I think it's going to be an interesting tell to see if the Ottawa offense tries to stretch the field a little bit more. On the Winnipeg side of things, they do have some changes in the defensive personnel this week. Terrell Bonds was injured and has a season-ending injury at this point, so he left the game. So I believe it's Jake Kelly coming in to start at that wideout position. They overhauled the whole defensive side in the backfield a couple weeks ago, made some changes there. So Winnipeg's got to really figure out how to shut things down on defense, and they got to figure out how to get things going on offense. And I agree with this comment here in the chat that if Ottawa can limit Oliveira, they definitely go into Winnipeg and come away with a W. Absolutely. I think Oliveira is the key, and we saw what he could do last week. We know what he can do in the Winnipeg offense, and him getting going like he does, that's when the Winnipeg offense is at its best. As we welcome Adam back in. I think I've talked a little bit about both the Ottawa and the Winnipeg side of this matchup in terms of my storylines for the first game of the week. But what are you looking at here, Adam?
Well, I want to see what Ottawa does. Their defense, again, has been a little bit stronger than what most people have given them credit for. I really want to see what they can do to shut down. They've been able to shut down some pretty good running backs so far, especially in Calgary against Dedrick Mills. I thought they did very well, the Ottawa front line. Now they get a real challenge. They get Brady Oliveira. So let's see what they can do with that. That's one thing I'm going to be watching quite a bit in this game. The second part of this game that I'm going to be watching, Zach Collaros, you got to start doing something here other than either standing there and taking a sack or making an errant throw. I mean, you know what? Zach Collaros has just not looked like Zach Collaros this year. He's kind of looked like he's taken a step back. I don't want to say it because that would mean Trey's probably right, although he did have Zach Collaros as number one as his quarterback this year. That's a love-hate relationship. I'm guessing right at this moment it's more in the hate than the love. Honestly, I could almost see Zach Collaros getting pulled soon in these games if he keeps doing what he's doing, especially the kind of hesitate to throw and end up having to take a run or take a sack. And I don't think it's going to go and sit well for the Winnipeg offense doing that. And it's got to change sooner than later, or this team is going to be going nowhere. So those are the two things I'm really watching in this one.
The other quick thing I wanted to mention is we've, talked about when is he going to decline. And I mean him as in Stanley Bryant on the offensive line for the Bombers because he is getting up there in age. And he is probably one of the top CFL offensive linemen of all time and should be in the Hall of Fame one day, I would say. As he gets up there in age, how much does he have left in the tank? The past 3 weeks, I want to say, shows exactly how much he has left in the tank because Brady Oliveira was a monster, both in the rushing game and the receiving game. Like you said, like 200 yards of offense in this game. And that was the first game, I believe, where Stanley Bryant was back, if I'm not mistaken, maybe the game before that. And when he was out, that offense really struggled to keep, any pressure off of Collaros, off of Strevler, and make anything happen on offense. So shout out to Stanley Bryant and the offensive line because the offensive linemen don't get enough love. Of course, you can't pick any offensive linemen when it comes to CFL Fantasy, but as we get into our fantasy picks for the week, what do you got your eye on this one, Adam?
Well, I like Ottawa's defense. I'll tell you that much. I think they're a very, very valuable pick and value pick as well. I think they're only $3,500 or something along those lines. They're very cheap as far as I remember. And honestly, I'll play it. It seems like a very good play. I'd like to take Brady Oliveira in this one. I might, just because he seems to be getting a lot of all-purpose yards, but I'm a little hesitant. The price is up there for Brady Oliveira. That being said, he's probably still one this week. I think Winnipeg's going to rely on him until he can't move no more, because honestly, that's what they got. The other one also, though, that I really like as a pick, if you're looking at Winnipeg, is Jarrett Stearns. He's actually really improved ever since, I guess, if I look at that right, Dalton Schoen went down. He's been getting consistently 11, 17 points, 14 points. He's been getting well over his 10 points that you really need to make him valuable. So I do like Jarrett Stearns as well in this one here. On the Ottawa side of the football, I mean, you can never go wrong with Braylon Addison or with Jake Hardy. Jake Hardy. Yeah, I did it. Ryan comes back and I screw up.
Don't call him Jake, Justin Hardy. He did it again.
Justin Hardy, like I said, yeah, no, he wouldn't be a bad pickup as well. And I mean, if you need to pick up Jake, I guess you can try it. I don't know how well it'll work for you, seeing as he's a free agent. But no, honestly, Justin Hardy's a good pickup. And also the other one, like I said, Braylon is on that one as well. Depending what you're doing with your kind of top players, I guess. There's a lot of cheaper plays too, so you might be able to afford one of those guys if you really want to have them. So, yeah, that's what I got. What do you, Ryan, first one back here for the fantasy. What do we got?
Oh, I've been cooking stuff up in the lab over the last couple of weeks, the fantasy stats lab. And, let's talk a little bit about, and I'm not going to delay us too long, but let's talk a little bit about a new metric I added to the charts this week, which is called FPOA, average or fantasy points over average. Because we take a look at how many fantasy points do teams typically give up to a position, how much, how many do guys typically score. Doesn't really show the whole picture. If you hold Kenny Lawler under 10 points, for example, that's pretty good. If you hold, I'll use Shamar Bridges, who's having a terrible season on the other side of the ball, to under 10 points, that's not really a sign that your defense has been playing pretty well. So I've been tracking that. How do teams, fare compared to how the player usually plays? And yeah, we were talking about it earlier. Ottawa's defense is phenomenal in this category, where quarterback, they're one of the few teams that give up less to quarterbacks than QBs typically score against everybody else. The left wideout position, they've shut down Kenny Lawler decently and DeMonte Coxie 3 straight weeks. So Carrick Wheatfall is not an option for me against this Ottawa defense, who lines up at that position. And they've shut down a lot of the receiver positions, actually, more than they typically score against everybody else. So I don't love a lot of the Winnipeg options in this game. I do, Brady Oliveira should always be in consideration. Besides the game he got injured, he's finished as a top 3 running back in 4 of 5 games and has had 14 fantasy points plus in each of those, besides one kind of down performance of 7.9. Nick Dembski seems to be up and down. When he's on, when he's not, it's a pain. He's had 2 of his last 3 games have kind of been off. So I'm shying away from the Dembski pick right now, but I do like what you said about Jarrett Stearns. He's been pretty consistent. 4 of his last 5 games over 10 points. And a large part of that is 3 touchdowns in his last 5 games. And he's been getting more work in that offense. So if I like any Winnipeg player, it's probably Oliveira or Jarrett Stearns. And on the Ottawa side, I mean, this is a feast. I feel like on the Ottawa side a little bit, because they don't run a ton, and teams don't run a ton against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers right now and have a ton of success. So, Drew Brown is going to throw a ton, which means you can really take your pick between Eugene Lewis, Justin Hardy, and Braylon Addison. They're all going to get a ton of targets. And my favorite of them is Eugene Lewis this week. Eugene Lewis has been fantastic this season. He has been a top 8 wide receiver in 4 of his last 5 games, and has been averaging 13.5 fantasy points in those games. So he's been playing really well. He winds up well in the matchups as well. On the season, Winnipeg allows an average of 4.3 more points to his position than those players typically score against anybody else. And in the last 3 games, it's been 15. So, DeMonte Coxie lit them up a couple of weeks in a row there, and Tevin Jones last week. So I really like the Eugene Lewis play on the Ottawa side. And you mentioned Ottawa's defense already because, Zach Collaros is going to throw a pick six, and that defense is going to get some sacks. So there's my picks on Ottawa, Winnipeg. How did I do for the first one back?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. I like them. They're good picks. Let's run into the betting side of things. Ottawa, Winnipeg. Winnipeg, honestly, is there a love affair, or do they have some sort of deal with the betting gods that they always get a advantage in -5? Like, honestly, I don't think Winnipeg deserves that right at this moment. To be honest, I think Ottawa probably deserves a better fate than that. But hey, Winnipeg is the home team, I suppose. That's 3 points. I don't know about you, but I'm going to go with the Ottawa Red Blacks in this one here. I know it's in Winnipeg. I know it's a sold-out game. Most games are. But I just have a good feeling about Ottawa right now. They're kind of getting onto a roll here. I think that they might just end up pulling off at another one. And traditionally, Ottawa plays good against the Bombers. Usually Dustin Crum, but nevertheless, it's still, still usually Ottawa's game for some reason against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So I'll go with the Ottawa Red. I'm going to go with the under on this game here. I think both defenses might step it up a little bit. We'll see what happens. Ryan, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Ottawa on this one as well. Yeah, Bombers favored by 5 points lately. Part of me wonders how much of that plays into, again, like Vegas sets these odds based on what people will pick, and lines get adjusted based on where people bet, right? Because they're just trying to make their money out of it. So it's not necessarily, I think initially it's set based on trends, but it's more so trends of what people will pick. And yeah, a lot more people believe in Winnipeg than they do in Ottawa. And I think that's a byproduct of 5 straight trips to the Grey Cup. And I think last year you looked at Winnipeg started 2-4 also to start the season last year or something like that, wasn't it? And they turned around and ended up going to the Grey Cup. So I think it's a byproduct of that Winnipeg is always favored in these games. They're at home too, where they have an incredible record. But I'm going to go with you, and I'm going to go with Ottawa here as well, because I think they're a better team than their record probably shows. They should be a better team, at least based on the pieces they have, and they haven't really gotten it together. And I don't know if they'll necessarily win. I think it could be a close game. I could see Winnipeg pulling it out, but I'm going to take Ottawa to cover the +5 here. Over under 53. I've taken a lot of unders this year, and my over-under record, I don't have our betting records. Mine's atrocious, so don't look at it. Yeah, yours isn't much better. Trey's really the only one making money off the podcast picks so far this year, but we'll turn it around. I picked a lot of unders, but after last week, give me the over on 53 here. I think both these defenses give up a lot of points and a lot of yards. So I'll go with that. What does the coin say?
Actually, I should say the coin is also a breadwinner for us. Let's see here. What do we got? It's got the Ottawa Red Blacks as well. So, looks like Ottawa's going to be in there. If you want to know Trey's picks, I'm guessing he'll let us know later in the week on who he's picking to see how that goes. He's too worried because of a sore foot tonight, so that's why he couldn't make it. Or ankle. I can't remember. Anyway.
Sorry, what the coin pick on that one?
The coin picked the Ottawa Red Blacks. So.
All right, so the coin agrees with us. All right, let's move on to game number 2. Definitely not as efficient as you have been the last couple of weeks, Adam. As we're 39 minutes in, I don't think we're finishing in under an hour. But, I apologize. I'm keeping you hostage here tonight because I haven't had a chance to talk CFL football, and I'm giddy to do it again. So happy to be back doing what I love here. Game 2, Toronto, Edmonton, 2 teams that are, I think, at the bottom of their divisional standings, go head-to-head, and this should be a fun matchup, I think, between these 2 teams. Let's start with you this time around. What piques your interest?
Well, you know what? I want to see how Cody Fajardo does again. I'm starting to really like what he's getting with the connection with Keon Julian Grant, as long as Julian Grant remembers not to eat the buttered some popcorn on the sidelines just before the fourth quarter. I guess last week he couldn't find any in Montreal, so all good. But no, honestly, I'm excited to see what Fajardo does in this one here. I'm excited maybe Justin Rankin may have a good opportunity to run the football. Although Toronto traditionally, last few games have really shut down the Bombers' run game. Although last week it looked like Brady Oliveira was of old, although he was running the ball and catching the ball and doing all sorts of things with the ball. So maybe not so much. But Toronto, the first game, they did a great job of shutting down Oliveira. So again, defensive battle to shut down Justin Rankin, who I think is actually a really good running back. The third thing I want to really watch on in this game here, Toronto gave up how many special teams touchdowns against the Bombers? And now you got Javon Leake, who, by the way, might just have a little bit of an issue with Toronto to go and settle. So, yeah, I don't mind seeing that one as well. Fantasy-wise, don't take Javon Leake. Don't listen to me. But you know what? Honestly, I want to see that one too. That could be pretty exciting, especially Edmonton. They have been begging for a special teams touchdown for a very, very, very long time. And I'm sure that they want one as bad as they could get one. So, yeah, that's the three things I'm watching. What are you watching for, Ryan?
Well, they did finally get that return touchdown earlier this year, I believe. Edmonton did, but definitely broke a long streak there. By the way, Trey just sent in his pick. Picks. He did pick Winnipeg and the over on the previous game. So we do have his picks for the games coming up here as well. Yeah, what am I watching for Edmonton? It's just like, it seems like maybe you're getting a little bit of momentum now, but we're still like coming into halftime often with them getting no points on offense. And so the offense isn't clicking on the scoreboard until late in the game when maybe a defense is letting up a little bit and they need that late game Fajardo magic. And that starts with Justin Rankin, who, yes, he's been good as a receiver, but he's been held to 4 or less rushing yards in 3 of his last 4 games. He's had like 6 or 7 carries in that time. Here, I have the stats. Pulled up. His last 4 games, 3 carries for 4 yards, 3 carries for 0, 12 for 69, and then 5 carries for 0. He's just not, that run game is non-existent in Edmonton, and I don't understand why, because they have some big name pieces on the offensive line. They have Justin Rankin, who is a fantastic running back. They've got Javon Leake to spell in there. And if they can't get it going against an Argos team that's struggled to stop the run this season as well, then I don't know if they're ever going to commit to that run game. But Cody Fajardo, definitely a more accurate passer. He's making plays happen with the receivers available to him that Trey Ford was definitely not doing. Shout out to the Elks as well for getting their first interception from a defensive back of the season last week in week 10 when Tyrell Ford took it to the house for that was their first pick of the season from defensive back. Jake Seresna, I think, had one earlier in the season. So I was high on that Edmonton defense coming into this year, and I'm not so high on them now because the pieces they brought in just haven't seemed to gel and produce out on the field for them at all, which could be problems I'm facing an Argos offense led by Nick Arbuckle that I think like their passing offense has actually been pretty good. Nick Arbuckle's looked great. I owe Nick Arbuckle an apology because I have not been too fond of him over the last couple of years. I thought that Grey Cup performance was a fluke. And I said this earlier when we were talking about the Argos. I don't think their record is a byproduct of Arbuckle being in there over Chad Kelly. I think Kelly could probably elevate this team to a couple more wins than Arbuckle had, but I don't think Arbuckle's the reason that they've been losing games. I think it's the defense, it's the special teams, it's the lack of run game that they've had as well. So looking for the Argos to see what they can do against an Edmonton defense that's been pretty susceptible to giving up a lot of yards and a lot of points this season as well. What do you got for fantasy picks on this one, Adam?
The only one that I really had in this one was the Edmonton Elks. I did like Justin Rankin. Again, as the other Adam in the chat has nicely pointed out, establishing a run with Justin Rankin is a must for Edmonton. Hey, if they want to win some games, they need to really start doing that. Another guy that I really like to look at, and I did mention it earlier, was Keon Julian Grant. I think he's been doing very well as picking up some extra little plays since Cody Fajardo's got in there. And again, you got to remember there's some comfort factor in there as well because both of them did play in Montreal last season. So they have a little bit more chemistry maybe than the rest of the Elks have with Fajardo. So yeah, I'd like to see how that one works out. I don't mind Keon Julian Grant for that pickup as well. Toronto, I always have trouble with Toronto. I want to take some receivers usually from there, but I mean, if it ain't Devontae Coxian, I mean, he didn't really have a great game, and I think he might be even questionable injured this week. So that doesn't really sit well with me for picking up a player. Kevin Bytel, I did like him last week. I did pick him up. Didn't really do as much as I really wanted them to, though. And yeah, it might make me go and hesitate once more. I think he only got like 2.4, 2.5 points for me last week. So it wasn't pretty. Other than that, though, I mean, they've got some good players, but I don't know. Usually Edmonton traditionally gave up a lot of run. Deontay McMahon. I don't know who exactly. Is it McMahon or is it somebody else right now that's running the football for Toronto? I can't even say right now because they haven't used it a whole lot this season so far. So I don't know. Those are the two players though that I'm looking at are mostly Elks right now, Julian Grant and Rankin as well.
Yeah, we forgot to mention on the Argos side some news this week when they released running back Kalen Laybourne, who was added to the team a couple of weeks ago. So the revolving door at running back continues for Toronto this season, where Deontay McMahon is back. He has been playing. He's had some moments, again, similar to Justin Rankin, where he gets involved in the receiving work and he's fantasy viable. But then he has weeks where he's just non-existent, and he hasn't topped 35 rushing yards on the ground yet this year, so don't love that even with the matchup with the Elks. Yes, he's cheap, but I think a lot of people are kind of turned off by his bad performances so far, and I would agree. Sticking on the Argos side, though, Demonte Coxie, obviously great matchup against the left wideout against the Elks is a fantastic matchup there. I think Coxie's bad week last week was a byproduct of playing that Ottawa defense that does surprisingly shut down his position well. His 2 games against Ottawa have been 2 of his 3 worst games of the season so far. So he's questionable due to injury. If he plays, I would consider putting in Demonte Coxie again this week because I think he is shown to be one of the top 2 or 3 wide receivers in the CFL this season. He's a huge playmaker. And that's really the only Argos receiver I'd be interested in. I was really big on Kevin Mytel earlier this year, but he's slipped up the last 3 weeks. The best he's finished is wide receiver 19, and he's been under 10 points there. Yeah, that's kind of what I got on the Argos side there. Nobody else really intrigues me. They're all kind of mid options, I would say. On the, Nick Arbuckle, I guess we should talk about him. 30 points last week was good for the second best quarterback in fantasy. Who knew Nick Arbuckle could run as much as he's run this season? And he got a rushing touchdown last week. I definitely didn't see that coming. He's put up respectable numbers. He's finished as a top 3 quarterback actually in 3 straight weeks against Winnipeg, and Ottawa, and now he plays Edmonton. So I think I'm always still a little turned off by the Arbuckle pick, especially now that I think he's up there in price with all the other quarterbacks. But the stats don't lie. If you want to take a shot with him, then be go a different route than most people, it could work. On the Edmonton side, Cody Fajardo, I like him always as a fantasy play as well because he has the rushing ability. He's averaged 19.5 in his last 3 games. Justin Rankin is a big boomer bust play. You're either going to get very disappointed if he gets no receiving work, or you're going to have a great day if he gets 88 receiving yards like he did last game. So if you're looking for a boomer bust, I like Rankin. Don't know if I love any Edmonton receiver necessarily right now. Kyle Julian Grant, of course, big week last week, but he doesn't get a huge target share most weeks. If you want the high target guy, it's Stephen Dunbar Jr., who's averaged 6.4 a game on the season and should get more the more they pass with Cody Fajardo. So that's who I've got for fantasy picks in this game. Betting picks, by the way, anybody watching the video, we got Adam shut his camera off for a little bit there because I think it is helping his internet connection. So Adam is still here. You just can't see him on the camera, which means you get to look at my face, and that's terrifying for me.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. So we're having a good time here tonight. Betting picks, though. Toronto, 3-point underdogs. Edmonton, 3-point favorites at home. Over under 53.5. What direction are you going?
I think I'm going to go with the Edmonton Elks again. I think that their home fans need a win. They need to do it for the fans again because you know what? Edmonton fans are kind of right now still kind of on the fence about this team. You know what? Cody Fajardo can prove a lot of people wrong by making a statement win here against the Toronto Argonauts and honestly take them right back close to back in the race here for a playoff spot in the West. Maybe it'll be a crossover right now, kind of looking more like it, especially with Toronto and Ottawa kind of, flailing a little bit. But hey, one more win puts them at 3. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Winnipeg's at 5, I believe, right now, right?
Winnipeg and BC are both at 4, I think, right now. So, yeah.
So, I mean, let's face it, you win one more game, you're at 3 wins.
I think the internet might have cut out for Adam again, so we'll give him a second. I'll let him re-add himself to the stage whenever he is ready to go. Yeah, for me, I'll get my pick and Trey's pick in the meantime. Trey is going with Edmonton and the under, much like Adam went with Edmonton. We don't know his over-under pick, but I'm going to agree with the under and with the. I'm going to agree with the Elks. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Elks. I think the Elks are the hot hand right now. And I think that they can. I'm taking a pause here because I'm really thinking about Nick Arbuckle and that Argos offense against the Elks defense versus the Edmonton. I think it's honestly a toss-up. So you know what? I'll go different from the guys here. I'll switch my pick. I'll go Toronto. With the +3, but I'll stick with the under as well. I think Toronto, that just gives me a 3-point opportunity here a little bit. And the Argos are maybe a better team than their record shows also. They've lost 3 games, I think it is, by just a couple of points or in the last minute. So I think they are better than what their last place in the East Division shows, and I think they can easily win a game against Edmonton. So let me switch up the picks here and go Toronto. But I'm going to take the under on this one as well, just because Edmonton's offense seems to struggle to score points early. I could see Toronto, has their up and down moments here and there as well. So take Toronto and the under. Well, we kind of have to wait for Adam to come back to get his points or his over-under pick as well as the coin flip. I don't have a coin flip around here, so we'll have to wait for the coin flip there. We got folks in the live chat. In the meantime, give me some topics to talk about. So weird to see Edmonton favored. Yeah, I agree. It is weird given where they're at in the had a 2-6 record, but technically they have a better record than Toronto. And Adam's back. Are you taking the over or the under?
Oh, I'm going to take the under.
All right.
I changed my mind during my little break was on there.
Sounds good. I already gave my picks, but I went with Toronto actually in the under on this one. Trey went with Edmonton and the under. What does the coin say?
Well, let me check. It is going with the Edmonton Elks.
All right. I'm the one person that's different on this one this week. And I don't hate that. It means I have a chance to catch up in our standings. And if I don't, then the season's a write-off anyways. So, yeah, not a great year for me betting-wise. I don't know why. It's not. Yeah, I have not.
I haven't had a good one either.
Yeah, I've been paying attention as closely as ever before. I just have not been hitting them this year. Maybe it's a byproduct of all the blowouts that we've seen this year. And like I said, some sloppy football. All right, game 3, Hamilton, Saskatchewan, a game near and dear to your heart, Adam, I'm sure, as your Riders come off the bye to face the Ticats, who had their first loss in a while after 6 straight wins last week. What are you watching in this game?
Well, unfortunately, nobody actually is coming off of the injured list while they were coming off of the bye as well for Saskatchewan. I'm looking at, will Sam Emilus make it back? All indications are no. He's still on the 6-game injured list. Expected to stay on that 6-game injured list by the looks of things. That being said, Sean Bain Jr. has been practicing with the number 2s for a very long time. The situation with that is, and a lot of people have asked me this, is why is Sean Bain Jr. sitting on the second team unit or on the 1-game injured list? Well, Saskatchewan there's this thing called the national players, the amount of national players you have to have on the field, and Saskatchewan really can't pull any nationals right now. They've got Sam Emilus injured. They've got Keon Schaefer-Baker injured. They've got a bunch of offensive linemen that were nationals injured. And really, they got no place to put. Right now, what they need to hope is that Thomas Bertrand-Drouin is going to be healthy. And if he is, then all of a sudden they may have an opportunity to go and actually get put back a Canadian, or put back another American, I should say, which would be Sean Bain Jr. But until one of the Canadians get healthy, they really can't. And it sucks. And it's terrible because Sean Bain Jr. would help this team a little bit right now. But unfortunately, just not looking like it right at the moment. Now I see Ryan is having issues or something's going on with Ryan. So I will.
I'm back. I'm back here now, Adam. Not internet issues for me. Apparently, part of the rust is I keep accidentally hitting the back button and leaving the studio. I did that 2 times in a row. So maybe just a little payback, give you some solo time after I had some earlier on in the show. But no, hands off the mouse. Should I just keep my hands up for the rest of the podcast just so I don't click anything? Maybe.
I could see the leading back and forth already. You must be getting a little tired from standing.
Hey, 50. You said over under was 30 minutes, so we're at 57 in, and still feeling good. I'm liking the standing desk for this. This is good.
Yeah. The only other piece that I wanted to bring up on this game here, I brought up the Saskatchewan side of the football, the Hamilton side of the football. Boy, all they really need to do is just have Bo Levi Mitchell throw the football. Saskatchewan has been proven a few times this year to be a little bit prone to the deep ball and a little bit of pressure once in a while. Check what BC did against Saskatchewan that first game when they came to Regina. All they did was really aim the football deep, and all of a sudden, and they kind of put a little bit of a hurry up offense in, and all of a sudden, it didn't look so pretty for the Rough Riders. The Ticats are now got all of their wide receivers back. There was a few missing there in the first week or two when they were playing Saskatchewan. So they've got everybody back. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's had a chance now to work with Bo Levi Mitchell. Keandre Smith, I mean, we could talk about him probably for a little bit in fantasy. I'm sure we will. But honestly, Smith's been pretty good for the last few weeks. Tim White is starting to get off of his usual first 4 games of the season low. Yeah. He's starting to get back to going to what Tim White usually does. And, oh, by the way, there's this guy named Kenny Lawler that could destroy you at any second. So, yeah, even Shamar Bridgers actually made an appearance last week.
Like he got a touchdown. That's a Christmas miracle.
We didn't know he still lived.
And not to mention my favorite underrated player in the CFL, Giovanni Robinson, the tight end for the backup tight end for the Ticats, who is one of the few global players in the CFL to be on the offensive side of the ball and actually make a difference.
Yeah, and I mean, you know what? And I still haven't even mentioned Drew Wolodarski's back. Brendan Leary-Orange is there. He's made a few plays over the season. They have got, just again, as we've always said, it's a cheat code for a receiving core in Hamilton, and that doesn't prone well usually for Saskatchewan, I don't think. It's lucky this game's at home. Maybe they'll get some momentum out of it. It sounds like it's almost a sellout. So if people could stop laughing at Saskatchewan that we haven't sold out our games,
if Ticats fans could just go buy the rest of the tickets and fill up opposing team stadiums. I hear they're supposed to do that. So
absolutely. I mean, come on. I mean, if you can't afford a ticket, I'm sure that a certain last guy with the name of Wilson will probably buy you a ticket.
Yeah, absolutely. My storylines for this game, probably not much different than what you've talked about already, so I won't add too much. But for me, it's obviously like two top teams, tops of their division standings going head to head. I think many would say these are the two best teams in CFL right now. Only other team in contention is Calgary, who I would actually really strongly put in that conversation. They had two losses, right, off of against Ottawa. One was with PJ Walker at the helm, and one was a rain game. And other than that, trying to think of what their other loss on the season was. Montreal. I think they lost the game to Montreal, correct?
They lost to Montreal, they lost to Saskatchewan, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah.
And that Montreal game might have been where VA went down with injury, if I'm not mistaken. So, Calgary is a very good team, but we're not talking about Calgary right now. They're on bye. We're talking about Saskatchewan. We're talking about Hamilton. This could actually absolutely be a shootout. I think you have two of the MOP candidates going head to head in Trevor Harris and Bo Levi Mitchell, two quarterbacks that are up there in age also at this point. This might be one of the last Trevor Harris, Bo Levi Mitchell matchups we ever get to see, and we've probably seen a fair number of them over the years in the CFL. So looking forward to that. If I recall, last year they had some massive shootouts between these two teams early in the season as well. So there should be a lot of offense flying around in this game, and that's mainly what I'm watching here, which takes us into fantasy picks. I like to let you go first while I crunch some numbers here for fantasy. So what you got?
Yeah, well, there's a couple players I'm watching. Traditionally, you do want to watch the two running backs. This game may not be the best of ones, although AJ Ouellette did have a very good game the first time that they played Hamilton. So kind of keep an eye on that one if you are looking. He is expensive, though, so got to remember to save some money. Keandre Smith, I mean, duh. At this point, I mean, he's making fantasy boring, and I know that's been brought up in our Discord channel over the last little bit because he's so cheap. Uh, but nevertheless, yeah, no, I'd probably have Keandre Smith on my team. The other one that I really do like, if you're looking for a play from Saskatchewan, Joe Robustelli is actually a really good deal at 6.2 as far as I'm concerned. That being said, he hasn't been as productive as he was. He had that one game where he just absolutely dominated, and some people think that, oh my gosh, he's got to be the player you always have. You got to play him accordingly. If you need like a value play or a cheaper play, he's not bad, but there's some other cheaper plays that you can get away with too that may be better for you. The other one also is Deontay Myers. Do like him, but gosh, he's starting to get to be expensive. I don't know. I'd be a little more hesitant on it. Pretty much the big two in Saskatchewan are Keyshawn Johnson and Deontay Myers. I gotta get names mixed up here today. Anyways, those are the two that I really think you could probably look at for the Riders, and of course Hamilton. Pick your poison. It's so hard to pick just one player. I mean, because one is really cheap. That's why you got to take that one probably. Otherwise, again, Kenny Lawler, you've got, like we said before, even Shamar Bridges actually kind of stepped out. Tim White is there still. I mean, you can take your pick. I don't think it really matters. I wouldn't take Greg Bell this week, though. Reason being is, in my opinion, Saskatchewan actually is really good on stopping the run from what we've seen. And also, they're very good at getting a sack. So, Levi Mitchell needs to get that ball out quick. That's maybe the only real key. Otherwise, I think if he can get the ball off, it could be a long day for the Rough Riders.
Yeah, the Keandre Smith pricing in fantasy is such a farce. Like, we could spend the next 20 minutes talking about that, and we won't, and I'll condense it. But the fact that this man has been arguably the best or a top 3 receiver in the CFL over the past 3 weeks and has consistently played better and better, and we've watched his price drop from 4,500 to 3,500 to 2,500. Respectfully, Genius Sports and CFL Fantasy, what the hell are you doing? Like, I do not understand the concept behind the pricing. And, I've thrown out a bunch of theories in the Discord channel, and it's been a little bit of a fun discussion. One theory I threw out there is it's not based on production. It's actually based on, selection percentages that they rate the pricing. And so, I would wager there are a lot more casual fans than hardcore CFL fantasy fans who probably just pick players from their own team or, names that stand out to them. And I'm going to guess Keandre Smith is not a household name necessarily to a lot of CFL fans at this point, which he should be because he's great. And I think it's a disservice to him, but could it be based on that? I think somebody pointed out last week that it was like only 18% of lineups had him in it, despite the price. 100% of lineups should have Keandre Smith in them at $2,500. There's no if or buts about it. He should be the first player locked in your lineups. And yeah, it does make fantasy absolutely boring this week to have that, because I think there are some really fun value plays out there that do not matter, because you should not be going that route over what you potentially have from Keandre Smith, who's put up, 11 plus points in 5 of his last 6 games, I think it is, and had some, 3 top 10 finishes in a row. If you can get that for $2,500, it makes everything else irrelevant. So that frustrates me as a CFL fantasy player. It makes it a little less fun, but absolutely put Smith in your lineups. Sticking with the Hamilton side, Bo Levi Mitchell has been pretty consistent, 24.5 plus in his last 3 games. He's finished as a QB1 3 times this season. He's looking good. That Riders pass defense isn't great. So I think Bo can light it up this week and is always in contention for a top quarterback play. Greg Bell, yeah, they do shut down the run game, but what appeals to me most with Bell is his receiving work. And in terms of targets allowed, the Riders are the team that gives up the most targets and second most catches and second most receiving yards to running backs. And I think that's where Bell shines. So I wouldn't be against playing Greg Bell necessarily, but I think there are better running back plays out there. In terms of the receivers, we talked about them with Hamilton. Kenny Lawler's cooled off a little. Maybe he's still a little bit injured there. Tim White as well. I don't like playing 2 receivers from the same team either. Generally, because I like to spread it out and try to hit the top receiver on each team. And for me, that's Keandre Smith is the play this week from the Hamilton receivers. And I'm not going to go with probably, I think this will be one of the first weeks I go away from Lawler until he can show me that he can get back on track there. On the Saskatchewan side, probably one of the first players I locked into my lineup, and I'm surprised you aren't more high on him, Adam, is your running back, and that is AJ Ouellette, because the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the last 3 games have given up an average of 30.9 fantasy points to running backs. And James, I think that's James Butler in there twice. I think that's Justin Rankin in there once with a 30-point week. I mentioned that new metric of fantasy points over average. The running backs score an average of 7 more points against the Ticats than they do against any other team in the CFL. Typically, this is probably the best matchup out there of any matchups in fantasy, and AJ Ouellette is a pretty consistent guy. He gets a huge workload every week with 15 plus carries. He gets his touchdowns. He doesn't always get the receiving work, but absolutely AJ Ouellette for me. Don't really love any of the Saskatchewan receiver or quarterback options because I think Hamilton actually does have a pretty good pass defense, and Saskatchewan likes to spread the ball around. Sometimes it's hard to pick the hot hand at receiver. Keyshawn Johnson, Dante Myers, like you said, if you want to pick a receiver, it's probably one of those 2, but I'm not necessarily looking at either of them in my lineup this week.
The only reason I didn't really pick AJ Ouellette was one reason. I think they got him on a pitch count. You looked at against Montreal, Mario Anderson Jr. is in there a lot more than I would have expected. And I just wonder if they aren't maybe not playing AJ Ouellette as much just to make sure nothing happens to him. I don't know. And maybe I'm playing scared. And that's never a good idea in fantasy. But you know what? I just looked at that and I was like, Mario Anderson in there in his second game in the CFL, and he's getting some significant yardage, like significant plays. I don't know, man. Maybe it was because it was such a blowout in Montreal.
That's exactly why. That's exactly my counter argument. 15 carries still for Ouellette in that game, same as he had the 2 weeks before that. I think it just became a blowout to the point where they were like, well, let's not risk him getting injured. Let's give Anderson some touches. And I don't expect it to be as much of a blowout against Hamilton this week. This is going to be a darn good game.
If it's a blowout, I'll eat my shorts. And I don't like eating shorts.
All right. Well,
Anyway.
you agreed to do it. So luckily for you, you did not say on camera. So we will take your word for it. Let's get to the betting picks. Saskatchewan 3.5 point favorites at home over the Ticats in this one. I'll go first on the picks here. I'm going to take the Ticats to cover because I think this could be a very close game. I still have a really hard time believing in the Riders this year, and as much as I know I have to start because they are at a 7-2 record, I think it is at this point, 7-1. I just feel like there's been so many games where they haven't looked fantastic, but they still pulled out the win. And I think this is going to be a good game. So I'm going to take the points here with the Ticats just to be safe. And I realistically see them winning this game. And give me the over on this one as well. I think there's going to be points aplenty from both sides.
You want to go Trace pick?
Let me look for it. You give yours in the meantime.
Okay, fine. I look at this one here. It's Family Day in Saskatchewan, if that matters. I don't know. Usually means Little Rider Cheer Day and everything else, and all the kids are out there making a bunch of noise. But I'm going to go with the Ticats because I just have a funny feeling that the Ticats are just going to probably go and take down a peg out of a Saskatchewan team that's maybe a little too comfortable, especially after they win in Montreal. They seem very comfortable after that. They had a bye week. Traditionally, the Riders actually don't do as great after a bye as some other teams do. So I do think that Hamilton actually have an advantage that way. And, the Ticats are playing very, very good football. Yes, they might be getting tired right now because they've had a very long road trip. That being said, they got one more in them. I'm going to go with the Ticats, and I will go with the over because this is going to be just a flat-out old who wants the MOP job more, or MOP position more, Bo Levi or Trevor Harris.
All right. Trey's picks Hamilton and the over as well. Sorry, I got distracted looking at numbers again. I'm bad at that. Adam, you had the Hamilton?
I had Hamilton and I had the over.
Okay, so we're all agreeing on that. And what does the coin say?
Let me find out. The coin is going with the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
All right.
So it's a sweep across the board. So good. Congratulations, Saskatchewan, on your 8th win.
That's how it works, right? That's how it works.
Exactly.
All right. Final game of the week is Montreal Alouettes visiting the BC Lions. Of course, the Lions coming off that big win over Hamilton in overtime, and the Alouettes coming off of who did Montreal play? That last-minute loss to the Edmonton Elks. Biggest storyline this week, McLeod Bethel Thompson goes down or leaves at halftime. Comes back with not rice on his wrist. That would be weird. Ice on his wrist.
Rice on his wrist, I would probably say it was probably Aaron Rodgers or something. But
yeah, exactly. Some new treatment there. Ice on his wrist. So we think it's injury related. Caleb Evans comes in the second half in that game for Montreal. It comes out today that McLeod Bethel Thompson is on the 6-game injured list now, and Caleb Evans is getting the start in this game. I believe it's James Morgan as the backup, and today the Alouettes signing Cameron Dukes at quarterback as well. What do you think about the QB room there, the addition of Cameron Dukes and Caleb Evans being the starter?
Thank you for not taking Jack Cohn from the Saskatchewan Roughriders practice roster. I really appreciate that. No, honestly, you know what? Evans has been waiting for a chance, and hey, you know what? The CFL is a land of opportunity. When the backup goes down and your main quarterback in Alexander's down, hey, third man up. I thought he looked okay against Edmonton at times. Was he the main reason why they lost that game? He really didn't get a whole lot going at the end of the fourth quarter there against an Edmonton Elk team that, probably should be down in the dumps. So be a little concerned about that. Cameron Dukes, I think, is a good pickup, though. He has some pretty good game experience when they do need him. But, hey, he's got to learn the playbook. Caleb Evans, I think, gives you your best chance of winning right now. I don't like Montreal's chances no matter what when they have to go all the way across the country to BC. So that doesn't help them very much. And they also probably have to play a Nathan Rourke that's now looking like his obliques are in perfect shape. So I don't know. I think that this could be a trouble game for Montreal. But you know what? Hey, it's the next man up in the league. That's the way it always is. Maybe Caleb Evans is going to surprise and become that new starting quarterback. He's got a chance to be one for a little while anyway.
Hey, Caleb Evans is undefeated as a starter for the Montreal Alouettes. I believe he started 2 or 3 games in the last couple of years for them, and ended up undefeated out of it. So I think he's going to get every opportunity. Like, I think Cameron Dukes is coming in to be the third string quarterback for this team. Caleb Evans has been with the team as that second string, third string guy for a few years now. I think they have to give him every opportunity to start, and I think he will have some degree of success. He looked pretty good in that second half. I have more confidence, and I'm surprised I'm saying this, as we talked about, kind of being surprised that MBT hasn't been a better insurance policy for them. But I like their chance of winning a game more with him with Evans than with MBT at the helm with the way they've been playing this year. So I like him as the starter. Morgan's another guy that has been with the organization for a couple of years now. I think they would, want to give him that opportunity necessarily before Cameron Dukes, who I said in the Discord earlier today, kind of fell off. Had every opportunity to become a starter in the CFL and a great 9-game trial last year for the Argos while Chad Kelly was suspended. And it took like 3 or 4 weeks for him to get replaced by Nick Arbuckle. Who definitely was not playing to the degree he's been playing this year up until then. So I'm not high on Dukes as an addition. I think he's just a depth add, and there's a reason he hasn't been added by anybody now until week 11 of the season. So, but yeah, it's Caleb Evans' season against the BC Lions here on the BC side. I'm most intrigued by just can James Butler keep up the pace he's been on lately, because, man, has he looked good so far this season for the BC Lions. And like you said, Nathan Rourke seems to be rounding back into form here as well, and they should be able to win this game. And it's interesting for the standings too, because Montreal, let's say Montreal loses this game, they're 5-5. If Ottawa pulls off a win over Winnipeg, like we were talking about earlier, suddenly Montreal, who I famously said after week 1 is going to clinch the East Division by Labor Day, is now looking like, are they even going to get a home playoff game this year? I'm not sure. And on the BC side of things, they have an opportunity to get right back into things in the West Division and pass the Bombers in the standings this week. So it should be an important game, I would say, for the standings between these two teams. Let's move to fantasy picks. What you thinking?
Besides James Butler, I think James Butler is a pretty obvious one in this one. Montreal's defense traditionally, and it's still the same as last year, just cannot really block up against the run quite as well as some of the other teams, I think, in the league. So, yeah, James Butler's on my list for sure. I don't mind Nathan Rourke as a pickup also as quarterback in this one here. I think Montreal's defense is going to be out there a lot, especially if Caleb Evans does start throwing 2-and-outs. And I mean, if it ends up becoming a lot of 2-and-outs for Montreal, that means BC's offense is on the field, giving Nathan Rourke a lot more time on the field. And man, he's starting to get some chemistry with some of these other new receivers. Berryhill, for example, Abel Hart. He's been working well with some of them. So, you know what? I'm starting to get more trusting back into Nathan Rourke. I don't know if he's still worthy of going in the Hall of Fame quite yet. By the way, I can't believe Ryan has not said that once yet in this whole episode, but I'm sure it's going to come eventually. So yeah, those are guys I'm looking at. I'd like to take Montreal's D, but I think that they're going to be very tired after this game. Unless, again, Caleb Evans proves to be that takes the number one job by the horns and really looks good, then all of a sudden, I think maybe then it's not bad to take the Montreal defense. But no, I like the two players from BC. Like I said, Rourke, and I like James Butler. On the Montreal side, there's some good receivers there. I like Charleston Rambo. I like a few other players, but I don't know who's throwing the ball to him. And Caleb Evans got to prove a game before I start picking receivers or anything really on the Montreal side of the offense.
Yeah, I agree with a lot. I agree with a lot of what you said there. You know, if Keandre Smith's price didn't kill the fun out of fantasy this week, I would absolutely lock $5,000 Caleb Evans in as my quarterback play of the week and stack my lineup everywhere else because I think he could be a fantastic value play. He's a mobile quarterback. He loves to run with the ball. Back in his time in Ottawa when he was a starter, he became like a fantasy, he became a really good fantasy player. He was putting up weeks of like 28, 30 points that time. It's because he would rush for a lot and he would throw a lot of touchdowns. And I think at 5,000, you're laughing at that price. I might still do it just for the chaos if I feel like it, but you don't really need the value play because you should be playing Keandre Smith at $2,500. But that's my favorite Montreal play, Caleb Evans. I always say, value-wise for fantasy, if you can get a player returning 1.5 points per $1,000 you spend on them, you're hitting payday, and that's, 75 or 7.5 points for Evans? He should smash that total, I would say. Other Montreal players, I don't love a ton of them. Don't like the running game situation. Sean Thomas Erlington is under 7 points in 3 straight games. I always like Travis Tice as a value play. Because he does make stuff happen when he gets the ball. But again, you don't need the value play this week necessarily. At receiver, I'm with you. Yes, Tyler Snead's been good. Yes, Cole Speaker's been good this year, but I'm not trusting them with Caleb Evans necessarily at quarterback. Again, I think he's a good fantasy quarterback because he runs a lot. I don't know passing-wise if I trust any of his receiver against a BC pass defense that has been pretty good so far this season. On the BC side, I always say Nathan Rourke is somebody who you should strongly consider and probably is the top fantasy play potential-wise every single week. Put Nathan Rourke in the Hall of Fame. There you go, Adam. I got at least one out of it. He's averaged 23.8 points a game on the season, has finished as a top 3 quarterback in every week but one. And he should continue to do so against Montreal again this week. James Butler has been the number 1 running back in 4 of his last 6 games. He is a running back you should lock into your lineup. I love a weekly build of pairing James Butler because he has that big boom potential. He does have some letdown games, so I love that big boom potential of Butler with a more consistent guy like an AJ Ouellette if you can afford the price between them. BC receivers. I was high on Barry Hill coming in this year. He's struggled the last 2 weeks. Keon Hatcher is always going to get, a lot of targets, and he's going to make plays happen from them. And Justin McInnis, after 3 straight terrible weeks, was suddenly the wide receiver 3 last week. So I don't think I'm loving the BC wide receivers necessarily in this game. I think any of those 3 are potential good options. And, right now, a variation of my lineup has Barry Hill in it because he's one of my favorite plays around that price point. But any of them could go off any week if Nathan Rourke is going to throw for 400 yards in a game to kind of sum that up. And I do like the BC defense. I've been seeing a lot of love for the BC defense in the Discord this week. Caleb Evans, does he throw a couple of picks? Does he take a couple of sacks? I think there's potential for the BC defense, who is at a very cheap price of like $3,500 or something like that this week. All right, that's it for fantasy in this game.
Can I bring up one more thing in fantasy right now while I'm thinking about it?
Yeah, let's do
it. This should be fair for Ryan because he just loves taking shots at Genius Sports all the time. Can they please update the James Butler picture to actually him in a BC Lions jersey? And also his halo isn't yellow anymore? I mean, come on, guys.
The funny thing is, even if they didn't go through the effort of taking the new one, they could just use his picture from 2 years ago.
Exactly. I mean, it's so easy. Although 2 years ago, he may not have had all the dental work, so...
Of course, the trips to the dentist. Betting picks for this game. BC 6.5-point favorites at home on this one. This line has grown since the Caleb Evans news, which I think it should have actually shrunk since then. I like their chances more with him than MBT. That being said, what are you taking on this one, Adam?
I'm going to go with the BC Lions. You know what? A touchdown score. is really a one-score game. I think the BC is going to win by more than a score. Montreal's coming in. They just got beaten, kind of. I don't want to say humiliated, but they got humiliated against the Riders. They got beat up against. They got beat by the worst team in the league, and now they got to cross the country and go play the BC Lions, who, by the way, just had a really inspiring win against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I'm sorry, Montreal, you're in trouble in this one. Give me the BC Lions, and I will go with the under on this game here, and I'll give you what the Coin's thinking.
Sounds good.
Coin's going with the BC Lions as well.
All right, Trey is going with you with the BC Lions and the under on this one as well. I can understand why y'all are going in that direction, and yeah, I'm kind of tempted to go there as well, but I'm surprised this line grew. I'm a believer in what Caleb Evans can potentially do. I also think BC, as good as they are at putting up yards, they're not really great at finishing drives, and maybe they have a bit of a tough time against this Montreal defense. So give me Montreal to cover this large spread of 6.5. But I'm going to go with the under on this one as well, just because I think both offenses could struggle to put points on the board. This could be a defensive game between these teams. So a couple of games this week where I'm going a little bit off the rails compared to you guys. So we'll see how that goes for me. They're either a great week or a terrible week.
Hey, it's boom or bust at this time of year. Sometimes you got to boom, and sometimes you really go bust.
Exactly.
My fantasy picks last week. Speaking of fantasy, why don't I run through the CFL Podcast Fantasy League? I mean, this is Ryan's favorite league, and there's a reason why, I think. Well, that's not his favorite league, but he just dominates in it.
Tell me how good I'm doing, Adam.
I guess I could tell you how good you're doing. Well, you're in first. That's obvious. 9-1, 1,121 total points. By the way, you're not winning in total points. That doesn't count until you actually have somebody tied with you. So, Ryan's still winning, I guess. Nevertheless, he's in first. I am in sixth right now. Had a bad loss last week up against Safamod, who is the one that's pushing you right now. That's Steve from the Bills podcast, by the way. He is the only one in second place, outright in second, and only has 2 losses on the year. So, hey, if I was going to lose to somebody, at least it was Steve. Your results last week, I'm just trying to pull it up here. You were playing. I
think the Argos Fancast last week, and I won that matchup.
You won that matchup, yep. Actually pretty handily. And then Trey was playing. Sorry, I can't see it right here. X's and Argos, the other Argos Fancast. Oh. And you guys, no, Trey lost. Tradition. Anyways, Trey's gonna murder me after he hears this episode. Anyways,
he's not listening. Let's be real.
Yeah, that's true. He's probably playing Farm Simulator or somebody call it in real life. Anyways, nevertheless, Trey's in 9th place right now in our league, just in the outside looking in, just behind the X's and Argos podcast. He's at a 5-5 record, as well as FM Fan. Well, a frequent listener of our show and part of the Ticats Talk Network. He's 5-5. Who else is 5-5 here? Sheldon, also from the 2-0 CFL podcast. So this week here, if I look at the schedule, you, Ryan, are going to be taking on. Where is Ryan when I'm looking for him here real quick? He's going to be taking on Daltz from the Rouge, White, and Blue podcast. So good luck with that one. And I will be taking on Travis from the 2-0 CFL podcast. So pretty much I'm just going to go and sit there and visit. Whoever brings out the best Chinese food idea probably is.
He put up 185 points 2 weeks ago.
I know. He's actually been on fire the last 2 weeks. I think he was in second or third last week, if I wasn't mistaken. So, yeah, not an easy one to take down. And Trey is taking on FM Fan, one of our good old fans that watches this show once in a while from the Ticat Talk Network. So, good luck to us, I guess. And everybody else that's in the Podcast Fantasy League. Do you have Trey's results by chance?
I sure do.
Yeah. Just because you're ahead of me now.
Oh, of course, yeah. In our Discord league, we're playing against members of our Discord as well, similarly in head-to-head matchups. In week 10, Adam, you lost by 4 points to Extreme 88. Close matchup there. Trey won his matchup by 8 points over K Sizzle. Mike won his matchup over Richard, who's in the live chat tonight, by about 20 points. So good luck to congrats to Mike. Adam, I guess you're the only one of the podcast to not win last week, which means I've passed you in the standings. Boy, the league you just talked about, I have a 9-1 record through 10 games. The competition in the Discord league is fierce, and this is another shout out to join the Discord community, link in the episode description, because we have a lot of really good fantasy players in there. I'm 9-1 in the other league. I'm 3-7 in this one, and so are you. And I have more total points. And we're sitting in 13th and 14th place right now, because it has just been a tough competition every single week. Mike is actually up to 4th at 6-4, and Trey is sitting in 10th place right now at 5-5. So there's a lot of teams kind of log jammed there this year. In terms of matchups this week, Adam, you're playing No Good Noverby. Mike's playing K Sizzle, and Trey and I are going head to head. So that should be a fun matchup, because in the podcast network league, the only person to beat me so far this season was actually Trey 2 weeks ago. So I got to get some revenge.
And that's the main reason why Ryan couldn't come on until this week, because last week he just couldn't take putting up with Trey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we'll see if I can get my revenge this week, because we're down to 6-7 weeks left in the season, and I really need to work my way back up the standings. So and you do as well. And then finally, in our draft league, where we drafted our teams before the season started, we've been making moves along the way. Let's see, this week, Mike beat everybody handily, 130.8 points, one of the top scores of all time. He's been on a little bit of a roll lately, made up some ground. Trey finished with 104.8. I had 83.6. I feel like I've had 3 bad weeks in a row now, and I'm kind of letting my lead slip a little bit. And Adam, you had a rough week with a couple of zeros in there because you missed setting your lineup for the first game. 75.9, though, so you didn't do much worse than me.
Yeah. Well, that makes me feel slightly better, I guess. But it wasn't a great week for Team Adam. Definitely going to be paying the fines from the not setting your roster on time. So.
In terms of overall points on the season, just 3 weeks ago, I was 100 points up on Trey for second place. He's closed the gap now to 24 points back. So I'll admit I'm sweating a little, getting a little nervous there, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Mike has put himself back into contention. He's about 50 points behind Trey. Adam, you are about 60, 70 points behind Mike. So you're falling out of it here, but hey, maybe maybe you got to make a couple of trades like Mike did to get yourself back in it.
I guess. Team Adam will keep the phones open and see what comes of the week. There may be a move actually coming soon, but I can't talk about that one yet because, confidentiality, and can't be going and meddling with other teams' players on their rosters. You can't go and negotiate with other players while they're still active. So.
In terms of transactions this week, Trey and I kind of jumped on the Montreal quarterback situation. He saw the news about Cameron Dukes and added him. He's a believer in Dukes and that he'll get some opportunities along the way. And I saw him sitting out there and didn't have to pay a dime for him and saw he was starting this week. So I picked up Caleb Evans and I talked a lot about how I think he could be a good fantasy play. Probably won't play him over Bo Levi Mitchell against the Riders defense, but at least if he sits on my bench, nobody else can play him. That's the strategy.
If only you could get a quarterback, a Hall of Fame quarterback. Or potential Hall of Fame quarterback.
Has the price gone down now? Will you do the Kenny Lawler deal now after two or three bad weeks in a row?
I don't know. I might think about it, to be honest. Team Adam has to do something here. So
we'll talk this week, Adam. We'll talk.
We'll talk.
All right, let's get into our closing thoughts here as we wrap this up. We'll be back again next week, week 12 preview for episode 299 next week. So we've got our big episode 300 coming up in 2 weeks. I'll admit publicly, no idea what we're doing for episode 300 yet, whether we'll do something big, but it is fun because it is Labor Day preview. And that's one of the biggest weeks of the season. So we'll have some fun with that, maybe some games along the way involved in that. And just, an early thank you to everybody for whoever's listened to this show up until 300 episodes. I'm sorry for all the time you've wasted in your life, but thank you for wasting it with us. But in the meantime, we got one more before we hit that. Next week is week 12 preview. Another 4 games on the schedule next week, I believe. So we'll preview those. We'll recap this week. Hopefully it's another banger like this last one was. In the meantime, we've talked about a few times tonight. Check out the Discord link in the episode description. Join us over there. We're having lots of fun throughout the week there. Especially the fantasy stuff. Again, we've been doing a lot of fantasy mailbag every week where people are throwing out questions in there. So that's been fun. We've done some trivia nights as well. On social media at CF Countdown Pod, on X, facebook.com/CF Countdown Pod as well. We're also on Blue Sky with the same tag. Check out all the other great shows from around the Canadian Football Podcast Network as well. CF Pod Network on X, Alternative Football Network at the official AFN on X, or alternativefootballnetwork.com. Adam, where can people find everything you've got going on?
Well, you can find me at Adam Stewart 1. That's usually the easiest way on X. You can also go and check me out. Probably your better bet is to head over to Instagram, farmer_in_Sask. Make sure you type that in. Go and check me out there. Usually got some good farming photos at this time of year, especially when we're getting closer to the old harvest time. So, yeah, once the harvest starts, you know that the football picks up. So, hey, I'm really looking forward to it. Only 2 weeks or 3 weeks until Labor Day, and then the Banjo Bowl, and all sorts of good football. Usually there's a big, long 8 or 9 game Rough Rider losing streak. So we're looking forward to everything that usually happens at this time of year, except for the last one. But if you want to find out all the stuff I got, Adam Stewart 1, or you want a better bet, go check out Trey's stuff. He's got lots of stuff going on with Trey Harness MB. I think what is this?
Trey MB Harness.
Trey MB Harness. So Trey Manitoba Harness or Trey MB Harness. Go check him out. I'm sure there's some probably race that if you're a really good degenerate gambler, he'll probably let you bet on, or some sort of horse race anywhere where you're looking for. So, also, I do apologize for my internet connection tonight. Elon has not been very friendly to me. I will see if I can get that adjusted for next week. I know they're putting fiber optic in the area.
Oh,
but
there we
I'm
go.
like a mile and a half out of town, so
that's a huge development.
A fiber line.
We'll fund one. Get the GoFundMe going to get Adam's internet fixed. That would be great.
Make Adam's internet great again. That's the idea.
Okay, we're leaving now. I'm not even going to give my plugs. I'm out of here and just walk off the set since I'm already standing. I made it through the podcast, standing the entire time. Yeah. Achievement unlocked, I guess. You can find me on X at CooperTrooper42. I don't tweet a ton there, again, because all my activity is in the Discord community. That's where I interact with people the most, and I have a lot of fun doing so. So check that out there. Again, apologies for the internet issues and some of the kinks along the way as we shook off a little bit of the rust for myself here tonight also. But it's been great to be back. Happy to be back doing the podcast here, back in rotation alongside Adam and Trey and Mike. And thank you for listening. And to those who sent in chat comments tonight, those were great as well. Whatever podcast platform you're listening on, we appreciate if you do all the fun things. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, share the show with your friends. Help us grow the show. We really appreciate that. Thank you for listening. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.